Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, the college football season is in the books. The page has now been turned to the 2026 NFL Draft. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we wait for these few months to really start kicking into high gear, but there is so much to talk about. I haven't been on air in a couple weeks. We had the national semifinals games. We had the national championship. Shrine Bowl is in a couple days. Practices kick off soon. Then we have the Senior Bowl kicking into full effect the beginning of next week. Then the Senior Bowl. Then it's a couple weeks before the combine, and then it's pro days. And right up there, here at Saturday, Sunday, we will cover Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine, wire to wire, guests from the industry, the exclusive S2S tiers, updated rankings, everything you need to get you ready for the 2026 NFL Draft. So let's put a bow on the college football season, and let's start there right now in terms of what we saw over the last couple weeks, how the ramifications of it for the 2026 NFL Draft. So I haven't been on air since the semifinals game. So let's just kind of circle back there. Obviously, Indiana dominated Oregon 56-22. I think the big story in that was just how good Fernando Mendoza was. And obviously, he concluded out with the national championship. We'll talk about that game momentarily. In that Indiana versus Oregon game, I think the prospect that stood out a lot besides Mendoza was his number one wide receiver, Elijah Sarrett, 7 catches, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. When this season started, I had a lot of questions about how he translated to the next game, to the next level in terms of his separation ability, getting open. But while I still have some concerns with that, his ability, the ball skills, the body control, his ability to adjust, his ability to create late separation and to win contested catches, I think makes him a really intriguing day 2 prospect for the 2026 NFL Draft. So before the year started, I was a little bit lukewarm on Elijah Sarrett. Thought maybe he was more of an early day 3 guy. I think he's now positioned himself to be a day 2 guy. I think he can win vertically more with contested catches, late separation. So I don't think he's a prototypical X. I think he's more of an outside Z. But I do think with that size, with that frame, with the ability, the ball skills, and the ability to adjust, and the physicality at the catch point, he can win vertically down the field as well, in addition to being a guy that moves the chains. Mendoza in that game, very efficient, 17 of 20, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns. Obviously, Indiana had it going on the ground as well. Dominated that football game. I think the bigger story in that game came out of it was the Oregon side of it. Now, we know since then Dante Moore has decided to go back to school. We've been talking about Dante Moore the whole year, and there was a lot of rumblings that he was definitely going to stay in school. Then the tide started turning and saying he might come out. And I kept coming on air saying, I don't know if he's going to go back. He could be the second pick in the NFL Draft. There's no guarantee next year. Arch might be in it. Lenora Sellers could be in it. Other guys. Dante Moore right now could have been and would have been the second pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, most likely behind Fernando Mendoza at number 1 to the Raiders. Moore probably would have went to the Jets. Now, we will never know, probably. Did he go back to school because he wants to try to win a national title? The NIL money that Oregon has there with the backing of Nike, he's going to make a boatload of money staying in school. Did he go back to school for that? The money, chance at a national title, 1 more year of college football, hone his skills, because I do think there is some areas where he needs to continue to grow and develop? Or did he go back to college football because he wanted to avoid the New York Football Jets? I don't think we know that answer, and we might never know that answer. If the Giants were coming out and there was going to be a trade, would that have opened him up more at the possibility of other teams having a realistic shot to go out and go get him at that number 2 pick if the Giants were picking 2 and they weren't going to draft the quarterback, they were going to trade the pick? We'll never know that, but I do think it's at least a topic of conversation. Also, in that national semifinal game, I don't think anything else really stood out too much from the Oregon side. The other game, it was Miami versus Ole Miss. If you weren't a Miami fan, I think you were rooting for the story of Ole Miss. in that game, Trinidad Chambliss out of Ole Miss, who are still waiting on whether or not he's going to be a part of the 2026 NFL draft. He's looking for an appeal to get one more year of eligibility. But he was 23 of 37, 277 yards and 1 touchdown. He showed a lot of moxie in that game. We saw him throughout the playoffs. We saw him in the second half of the season. I think he's elevated himself that if he is in this draft, he could win somebody over and potentially be a first-round pick. And that's why I'm kind of surprised at how aggressive his team is in appealing the denial of another year of eligibility. I think right now, his stock is probably as high as it's ever going to be. Besides Mendoza, it's a down quarterback class. Even if Ty Simpson might have his backers, I think Chambliss could be the third quarterback taken. I don't think it's impossible that a team would like him more than Ty Simpson. So I'm surprised he's not just content with saying, you know what, I had a great magical season at Ole Miss. I tried to see if I could stay another year. The appeal was denied. I mean, my request was denied, and now he's suing the NCAA, and it's a lot going on right now. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that plays itself out. But I do think if Trinidad Chambliss is in this draft, he's going to be a guy that intrigues some teams, whether it's late round 1, early to mid round 2. He's going to have a couple people that fall in love with the intangibles. He's got the arm talent to make every throw. He's got the athleticism, the second reaction plays, the mobility, dual threat ability. There's a lot to like about his game as he continues to still round in the form. An amazing story. He was like the 5th, like 200 and something transfer portal quarterback or something crazy stat like that. But what we saw this year, he went there to be the backup, emerged as the starter, and a magical year. Unfortunately, didn't end in a shot to go to the national championship game. The only other thing I want to make note of is we're going to be talking a lot about K'Wan Lacey, the running back from Ole Miss. He's one of those guys near the top of any Devy running back list. This game against that daunted Miami defense, he had over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think it just speaks volumes on just how talented of a player he is. So that then, and in that game, Miami, Carson Beck, 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malachi Toney, 5 catches, 81 yards and a touchdown. Mark Fletcher, 133 yards rushing. That's their core offensive players. Beck, Toney, Fletcher. Toney's a freshman. The year he had, unbelievable. He should be near the top of most Devy wide receiver rankings. Fletcher going back to school. I kind of wish he would have declared because I think he would have been near the top right after Jeremiah Love is the second RB in this class. Another guy high up in your Devy running back rankings. And then Carson Beck, there was a lot of buzz going into the national title game the other day that maybe he was playing himself back into the round 1, round 2 mix. I don't see it. I think at best, late round 3 to early day 3. And I still think he's more of a day 3 prospect. When things are smooth for him, you still see glimpses of that guy who was a high caliber prospect a couple years ago at Georgia, who people thought could potentially last year be the first pick in the NFL draft. But playing under pressure, you still see those same questionable decision-making. So when I think we're trying to transition to the next level, do I think he could be a quality backup? Yeah. Do I think he can be a spot starter? Yeah. But I just don't see a team looking at him with the top 50 picks and saying, you know what, we're going to give this guy a chance. Like New Orleans believed in Tyler Shuck. They took him early second round and said, you know what, we want to give him a real opportunity. Because he has more physical traits. I don't think a team's going to look at Carson Beck even the same way the Saints looked at Tyler Shuck last year. So I think you start pushing him down the board. Does he maybe go where the Browns took Dylan Gabriel? I think that's a possibility. We see guys late in that round 3. That's where we saw guys like Matt Corral. We saw Dylan Gabriel. Guys like that we sometimes see go in that late round 3 range. So I think that's probably the ceiling for Carson Beck, unless he wows over one team in the pre-draft process. And that's all it does take is one team. I just don't think that's going to happen. And then if we fast forward, some closing thoughts on the exciting national championship game, Indiana win 27-21. I'll stay on Beck. The decision-making, handling pressure, I think you saw it kind of rear its head here a little bit. The numbers were fine in the national championship game, 19 of 32, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But he was working with pristine things. He's working with a wide receiver who's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He's working with a wide receiver who's going to be a top 50 pick probably when he's eligible, when he comes out. An elite defense. I still think Beck is who he is. I don't think he's a talent elevator. I think he could be a part of a good offense and be functional. And like I said, I think he can become a spot starter or a quality backup to the next level. But I do think that is where his ceiling is. Again, what Malachi Tony has done as a freshman this past game, the national title game, 10 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown. Fletcher, 112 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Those guys are why Miami is going to be right in the hunt next year as well. Big-time playmakers at the wide receiver and running back position, and they will reload everywhere else that they need to reload, and they will be a hot ticket spot in the portal for people who are still in the portal. You'll see a lot gravitate towards Miami. But also in that portal, you're going to see a lot of people end up in Indiana. National title, an amazing story. You can make the case it's one of the best college football stories of all time. Fernando Mendoza concludes his college career with the national championship. The play when he takes off on 4th down, bounces off a defender, dives to the end zone. I think that just speaks volumes on Mendoza, his character, his makeup, his drive and determination, that it factor that every NFL team is always looking for that you can't quantify. But Mendoza's got the size, frame, arm talent, enough mobility and athleticism not to be a statue in the pocket, and the intangibles. I don't see any way the Raiders move off of that pick. I think Tom Brady's going to love him. I think whoever the new head coach of the Raiders is going to fall in love with him. I'd be stunned if he's not a member of the Las Vegas Raiders about 15 minutes into night 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft. So great college football season. A lot of drama. A lot of surprises. I think that's what made it such a great year. There were people questioning whether Miami even deserved to be in the playoff. Then they go to the national title game. People kept waiting for the Cinderella Indiana story to end, and it never ended. Perfect season. 16-0. National titles. Amazing story. Mendoza on his way to being the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. But with that now, that concludes the college football season. Now we turn to the pre-draft season. My favorite few months on the calendar when it comes to the All-Star circuit, the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, a couple weeks later, the Combine, the Pro Days, and all the hype leading into the draft, and then all the breaking down afterwards. Here at Saturday Sunday, if you're new to us, we cover it wire to wire. Shrine Bowl preview today, Senior Bowl preview next week, recapping the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, then getting ready for the Combine. Instant reaction shows to the Combine every single day after the Combine concludes. Then an overview of the whole Combine. Then it's my Tier Buster series. Then it's guests from the industry. And then before you know it, it's weekend of the NFL Draft. But between now and then, I can't even tell you how many episodes I'll record. If you're someone who has the notebooks, I've already done massive updates in the notebooks. Tabs just for the guys who declared. I've already set up some prospects that are coming soon. Updated scouting reports already. Continue to do all of that. We'll do my tiered rankings. We'll continue to update Dynasty rookie last year's Dynasty rookie rankings. Dynasty overall rankings have been updated over in the last week. Getting ready as we head towards free agency in the offseason for the NFL. And then the draft projections notebook comes out in April, a week or so before the NFL Draft. So that's all to come here at Saturday, Sunday. But let's spin the page. Shrine Bowl next Tuesday. The Shrine Bowl has been gaining in popularity, I think, a little bit because Eric Galko, who runs the Shrine Bowl, he has landed some really intriguing prospects over his couple of years now that he's been running it. And I think this year is probably the best group of Shrine Bowl prospects we've seen. So let's go through, talk about some of the guys I'm most looking forward to seeing at the quarterback position. A couple guys I'm excited. I think the headliner name is Garrett Nussmeier. Before the season started, he wasn't my QB1. That was Arch, followed by Sellers, followed by Mendoza. But for a lot of people who didn't want to include Arch in their rankings because they didn't think he was going to come out, a lot of people had Garrett Nussmeier as their number one quarterback heading into this season. A lot of people thought he was a top 10 pick, and it just hasn't lived up to it. But again, weak class. It's got a chance to start to bounce back that draft stock a little bit. And I think it starts here in the Shrine Bowl. When I've looked at Nussmeier, and I'm excited to kind of see him in this setting, size is always and frame has always been average. Same thing with the athleticism and mobility. Same thing with the arm talent. But he's always showed a willingness to attack tight windows. I think he's got good accuracy and ball placement. He can throw on the run, even though his athletic ability is only average. I thought he throws with good touch and anticipation. He's got a quick release, good mental processing, has shown the ability to work through progressions, good toughness and footwork. I think right now, he's still looked at as a guy maybe early day for a backup quarterback, see how he develops. But we're talking about a guy that 8 months ago, people thought was going top 10 in the 2026 NFL draft. So there's obviously people that really liked them. So that's where when you had that preconceived notions, all it takes is a few people to start thinking that way again, and all of a sudden draft stock, it starts to improve. So Nussmeier leads the quarterback room in terms of intrigue. Diego Pavia out of Vanderbilt. I know he's undersized. Arm talent is probably just average to below. But dual threat ability. This past year, 862 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, 29 touchdowns passing. He's got good athleticism, speed, movement skills. He can play off structure. He can improvise. He can throw on the run. Love the mobility. Plays with a lot of toughness. Shows good pre-snap ability to change the play. Works with progressions and shows good accuracy and ball placement. I think he's an intriguing player to go somewhere in round 4 to 6. Teams are looking for that spark plug off the bench as a backup quarterback. I think Diego Pavia can be that guy. Another quarterback I have my eyes on, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. Only a one-year starter, obviously level of competition in North Dakota State, not at a Power 5 school. He's got some inconsistent mechanics and footwork that he's got to clean up so he can handle pressure and make better decisions. But as a developmental quarterback prospect, he's really intriguing. He's 6'3", 230 per 8. So he's got good size and frame. Shows good accuracy in the short to intermediate, a little inconsistent when it gets vertically down the field. He had 777 yards rushing with 13 touchdowns, and then another almost 2,700 yards passing and 16 touchdowns. So he's got some dual threat ability. He's got good athleticism and mobility. He can throw on the run. He's got good arm talent. He's got a quick compact release. He can throw a touch. He's got good play strength and toughness. There's some characteristics of Cole Payton that are intriguing to teams. And the last quarterback that intrigues me is Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor. I studied him in the summer. I think he's a day 3 prospect, third string developmental to start, but he's got good size and frame, above average athleticism, mobility to pick up yards if he takes off. He's got good arm talent in terms of his velocity and strength. He's shown the ability to throw with anticipation. I think he's got clean footwork, shows good pocket presence and toughness in the pocket. I'd say the accuracy and ball placement is probably just average. But Robertson was a guy that some people thought could have worked his way into the day 2 mix. I don't think that's realistic as much anymore. But I still think he's an intriguing day 3 prospect at the quarterback position. Next up, running back position. Couple guys at the running back position really intriguing. I think the guy that stands out the most is Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest. Interesting committee backfield type player, capable of playing on all three downs, best in an outside gap or zone run scheme, can be a kicker, punt returner, but he's got average size, undersized frame. I love the athleticism, the burst, the speed, and the acceleration. Very good movement skills, lateral quickness, footwork, cutting ability, agility, and elusiveness. He's got good vision and patience. So Damon Claiborne is a really interesting name at the running back position at the Shrine Bowl that I'm excited to kind of watch there. We don't get to see a lot from the running backs in practice. There's only so much asked to them because, but I do think his pass catching ability could potentially thrive. And I think when it comes to the game next Tuesday night, I think Claiborne could be one of those guys that really shines in that setting for what we're going to see from the running back position. I think he's the headliner name at the running back position for the Shrine Bowl. I do have my eyes on, no word. I know we last saw him for Indiana. Roman Hemby out of Indiana. Is he taking part in the game? That'll be interesting to see. He's probably the second running back on the list right now of the Shrine Bowl running back rosters that I'm excited to kind of see. And then Trip Trainham out of Toledo, another guy that I think I'm excited to kind of see how he looks down there. But I think Damon Claiborne is the headliner name at the running back position for the Shrine Bowl. The wide receiver position. Couple of guys here really stand out for me. First one I'm going to have my eyes on the most, and I think he's going to be one of the winners of Shrine Bowl practices and one of the guys that stands out the most, and that's Skylar Bell out of UConn. Slot outside possession receiver. He's 6 feet, 185. This past year, he had 101 catches, 1,278 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Got good route running chops, good understanding of route concepts, expansive route tree, shows good separation quickness, good movement skills. He's got yak ability after the catch. He's got good body control, ball skills. He's got good hands. He's not going to be a burner. So if he ends up at the combine, he's not going to have a great 40 time. Long speed is not his forte. Getting off physical press is going to be a challenge for him, and he's not a contested catch type guy. But he's got the capabilities to maybe go early day parade. Versatility as a slot or outside is what intrigues me a lot about Skylar Bell. A really interesting wide receiver prospect is Chris Hilton Jr. out of LSU. Limited production, but we're talking elite game-breaking speed. This is going to be a guy that's going to potentially run a 4.3 if he's at the combine or at his pro day. So that's what this setting in particular is really fascinating with, because you have these prospects that maybe don't live up to the hype while they're in college, but then they get the opportunity at an all-star event or at the combine, and they show off those physical traits that make them stand out. Hilton could be one of those guys with that game-breaking elite speed that he possesses. Chase Roberts out of BYU. Another big-bodied guy, 6'4", 210. This past year, 800 yards plus, 6 touchdowns, 54 catches. He's going to play outside, whether it's the X or the Z. I think he lacks the long speed to be a traditional X, but he's got great length and catch radius. Shows the ability to go up and high-pointed, ability to adjust. He wins contested catches consistently. He uses his size and physicality to create late separation. So I do think he could be an X. And he could win vertically down the field with the tool set that I just talked about. But whether it's the X, whether it's the Z, Chase Roberts is a guy who I think you'll see somewhere in that round 4 to round 6 mix as a guy who could make a name for himself at the next level. Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech. 5'11", 175. So let's get it out of the way. Undersized. The size and frame is somewhat of a concern. Route refinement is there. Struggles at times to get off physical press. Doesn't have ideal length or catch radius. He's more limited to be a vertical slot or a manufactured touch guy, somewhere in day parade. But what does he bring to the table? That's what I like to really hone in on. And I think you're going to see somebody make some plays in Shrine Bowl practices and then the game. He's an explosive playmaker. Very good to great athleticism, speed, burst, movement skills, the ability to make people miss in space. He's going to be a yak guy. Show that agility and elusiveness in the open field. He can get vertical. He's got good separation quickness, good body control, and ball skills. A lot to like about Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech. I think him and Skylar Bell are the two guys that I'm most excited, maybe in the entire event, from the offensive skill position side of it, that I'm excited to see down there at the Shrine Bowl. A guy who I've talked a lot about over the last couple of years is J. Michael Sturdivant. Once upon a time, I thought this guy was ticketed to maybe top 50. Hasn't materialized. He's transferred a couple times. I still think he's got an intriguing skill set to make him a day 3 wide receiver. A depth to complementary piece on the outside. Can play the X, can play the Z. He's got good size and frame. Really good athleticism, speed, and acceleration. He shows bursts and explosiveness to win vertically down the field. He's got good length, catch radius, body control, and ball skills, the ability to go up and get it, adjust, extend, and high point for the football. If you're just talking about a guy who checks off boxes, size, frame, athleticism, ball skills, that's J. Michael Sturdivant. There's a reason why people thought he could have maybe been a top 50 pick. Now, he hasn't put it all together. He hasn't been a consistent player, hasn't dominated as he should have, I think, by many people's accounts. But that's the kind of guy that could really start to shine. And right now, he's looked at as maybe a round 6 guy. But if he has a good pre-draft process, if he tests out as well as I think he's going to test out, at his size and frame, I think you can start to see him move up the boards a little bit. And maybe all of a sudden we're talking about him as an early 4th round pick. Think about where the Raiders took Dante Thornton last year, something along those lines. That could be a J. Michael Sturdivant if he has the pre-draft process that I expect him to. Tight end position. A lot of tight ends I'm excited to see at the Shrine Bowl. I think the biggest name is Jack Andres out of Texas. I think he's a round 3, round 4 type prospect, complementary pass catching tight end 2 that could even develop into a starting move tight end at the F position. Size and frame is just average, but I think he's got above average to good athleticism and movement skills. Average speed and separation quickness, but he's got great hands, good body control, can win contested catches, can adjust to the football. He's got good receiving skills and production. I think Jack Andres could be a top 5 tight end in this class. He is for me right now. Dallin Bentley out of Utah. Another guy who I think could be an early day 3 type prospect. He's 6'4", 264. Great frame. Size is about average for tight end. This past year, 620 yards and 6 touchdowns. He can play inline. He's got the play strength. He can use that to his advantage, create late separation when he's running a route, winning a contested catch. He's got good soft hands, shows good body control, average blocking skills, which coming out of school, if you're a functional blocker, that's a win. Shows good understanding of route concepts. He can find the soft spots and zones, and he can be a major red zone weapon. I think the athleticism is probably just average, not like a game-breaking pass-catching tight end. He doesn't have that top speed to really attack the seam vertically. Not much of a guy who's going to make stuff happen after the catch. And he can clean up some blocking techniques and refine them a little bit, but that's most players. But I do think he's an interesting player with that size, frame, pass-catching ability. 2 other tight ends that I think are on that late round 3 to somewhere probably through round 4 or early round 5. One is Lake McRae out of USC. Definitely has to improve his blocking techniques and his blocking skills. But he's 6'4", 250, so average size, average frame. This past year, had 450 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's shown the ability to attack the seam and get vertical. Average route runner, athleticism, and movement skills. It shows good route running and understanding of route concepts. Move tight end, versatile, can do a lot of different things with him, and shows good hands. So McRae is a guy who I think not a lot of people are talking about. Could use the Shrine Bowl as a little bit of a jumping off point to get him kind of more in the public space as a guy who could come off the board early on day 3. And then Eli Raritan out of Notre Dame, 6'7", 251. Great size. Frame is just average. You probably should add at least another 10 pounds or so to that frame at 6'7". He's got great length, great catch radius. This past year, 32 catches, 482 yards, 15.1 yards per catch. So showing the ability to attack the seam, get vertical, make some big plays. Good in contested catches, shows good jump ball skills, good body control, former basketball player in high school. So I think that there's natural athleticism and movement skills there, and he shows good straight line speed. So I think he's another interesting name. I think this tight end class is actually pretty interesting. I think it's actually a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, we know we're going to have Kenyon Sadiq in round 1 early, but I think the round 2, there's going to be some interesting guys in the round 2 mix, interesting in round 3, and then also a handful of guys somewhere on day 3 that I think are going to be interesting players. I want to circle back, guys, and apologize. I had my tabs mixed up. When I did the quarterback position, I was jumping ahead a week. I was starting to talk about the guys that I was most looking forward to seeing in the Senior Bowl at the quarterback position. The running backs and wide receivers and tight ends I just talked about are all at the Shrine Bowl. So I do want to circle back to the quarterbacks at the Shrine Bowl, not the quarterbacks I talked about before. Nussmeier, who I talked about before, Diago Pavia, Cole Payton, Sawyer Robertson. Those are the 4 quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. You'll hear me talk about them next week on the Senior Bowl preview. The Shrine Bowl preview, the headliner name is Cade Klubnik out of Clemson. There was a lot of people, ESPN in particular, and I respect a lot of the guys at ESPN who do tremendous work for the draft, from Kuiper to Miller to Reed to Field Yates and everyone else. A lot of the guys at ESPN had Cade Klubnik as a top 2, top 3 quarterback in this class when the college football season started. A lot of people thought he had a top 10 ability. This year did not go as well. But again, it wasn't that long ago that people thought he was going to be similar to what I said about Garrett Nussmeier. There was a lot of people that thought Cade Klubnik was a round 1 prospect. Some thought he could be as high as top 10. Right now, I think people look at him as a backup quarterback with upside traits. I think best in a spread offense that utilizes RPO concepts, get the quarterback on the move. Size and frame are just average, but I do think he has good arm talent in terms of velocity and strength, really good athleticism, movement skills, ability to move and throw on the run, can play off structure, can throw from different arm angles, different platforms. I think he's got good touch, good poise, quick release, good mental processing, and showing the ability to go for progressions. There was just not a lot of consistency, and there was not a lot of growth in some of the areas that were concerned. But he is the headliner quarterback name at the Shrine Bowl. Miller Moss out of Louisville, another guy. Last year at USC, this year at Louisville. I think he fits a certain scheme. He could be an intriguing backup quarterback, best in the West Coast or spread offense. If you tell me he eventually has a career like Case Keenum, would I be surprised? No. So I think he'll go somewhere around 5, round 6. And can he develop into a backup quarterback spot starter? I think it's possible. The physical traits are average across the board. Size, frame, arm talent, athleticism. But he throws with good touch. He throws with good anticipation. Shows good mental processing, good pocket presence. Has shown the ability to work through progressions, has good footwork, quick, clean release, good mechanics, and shown poise under pressure. So I think Miller Moss out of Louisville, really intriguing prospect that could start generating a little bit of buzz like last year. And then the last quarterback at the Shrine Bowl, again, I apologize for mentioning some of the quarterbacks from the Senior Bowl earlier, but Cade Klubnik, Miller Moss, I think are the 2 headliner names at the Shrine Bowl at the quarterback position. But then Joe Fagnano out of UConn, Eric Galko, who runs the Shrine Bowl, has compared him to former Shrine quarterback Aiden O'Connell, a pocket passer who can find a steady home in the NFL. Scouts are intrigued by him. And when I've watched him, there's aspects of his game that I'm intrigued with. Almost 3,500 yards passing, 28-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So he's a guy that I think has really generated some buzz during this college football season. Can he keep that momentum going from off the grid to now a guy who is looked at as maybe a draftable quarterback prospect? So I think Cade Klubnik and Miller Moss kind of steal the show as the headliner names at the quarterback position. But I think Joe Fagnano out of UConn is maybe the most intriguing quarterback prospect down there at the Shrine Bowl. A couple defensive players I just kind of want to make note of because I do think they're probably the best 2 prospects at the Shrine Bowl. And I think the guys who have the best chance of going round 1 or in the top 50. Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU. I mean, this was once upon a time people thought maybe he was going to be a top 5 player. 5-star recruit, great start to his college career. A lot of people thought he was a top 10, top 15 type player. He can play edge rusher, he can play off the ball linebacker. Sometimes people look at that as a tweener. I think you look at his versatility. There's so many intriguing defensive-minded coordinators or head coaches now who know how to scheme things up for intriguing prospects like this. So I think Harold Perkins has a real shot to go late round 1. And if not, I think he has a real shot to come off the board by the middle of round 2 as a top 50 prospect. So I think he's the guy that's probably going to be the first Shrine Bowl player to be taken. And I think Jake Golday out of Cincinnati, ideal size, good pass rush skills, can drop in coverage, can play to run well, good blitzer, I think would be the other intriguing player who could potentially be a guy who we see come off the board somewhere on day 2 as the second prospect from the Shrine Bowl to be taken. So those are the 2 most intriguing defensive prospects talked about. At the quarterback position, it's Klubnik, it's Miller Moss, it's Joe Fagnano. At the running back position, it's Damon Claiborne, and we'll see if Roman Hemby out of Indiana is there. And then wide receiver, Skylar Bell and Eric Rivers, the 2 most interesting names with Chase Roberts, Chris Hilton, and J. Michael Sturdivant as the other guys that round out the top 5 wide receivers in my mind there. And then a lot of guys at the tight end position. I think Jake Andres has a chance to go somewhere late day. Jack Andres has a chance to go somewhere late day 2. I think Bentley, McCray, Reardon all have a chance to go late round 3 through round 4. So I think it's a very strong tight end group there at the Shrine Bowl. So there it is, guys. Shrine Bowl preview. Wrap up to the college football playoffs. It's that time of the year where everything starts to get kind of ramped up in the draft coverage. And here at Saturday, Sunday, watching tons of film, updating scouting reports, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl. I'll be on Twitter a lot more, sharing my thoughts on these players. And as we get closer to the draft, the combine, anyone who's ever been with me for the combine knows all 4 days of the combine, I'm tweeting like crazy, live thoughts, sharing every 40 time, scouting reports on every single player that's at the combine, whether they run, whether they not run, share it all during the all 4 days of the 2026 combine, just like every year in the past. If you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, SS Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out the premium content tab for $9.99. You get access to all 3 of our premium notebooks. You get the rankings notebook. Everything has been updated in there. Soon tab will appear for my tiered rankings, exclusive S2S tiers that we've created. Those rankings and the tiers, the draft guys, be updated throughout the pre-draft months. The dynasty overall rankings will be updated throughout free agency. And then after the draft, new dynasty rookie rankings will be out the weekend of the NFL draft. And those rankings and everything, IDP rookie rankings, a week or so after the draft, will be updated in real time throughout those months. You get the scouting notebook, which has scouting reports on close to 100 prospects. More will be added, more will be updated. And then you get the draft projections notebook in April. Scouting snapshot of how they win, developmental areas, combine testing numbers, projecting how we expect them to come off the board based on everything I'm listening, reading, and hearing from the best in the industry. It's got tabs for every position, offense and defense. It's got a tab, me projecting the 32 players I think will come off the board in round 1. The top 100 prospects I think will come off the board in the first 3 rounds. And then our best guess projecting every pick, all 255 or 256, what the final number is, usually right around there. We have had tremendous success getting anywhere from 84 to 86 out of the top 100, 26 to 30 in round 1, and then 225-ish, sometimes 215 to 225, projecting everybody to be taken in all 7 rounds. Hit rates over 80%. A remarkable number, and that this goes into a testament of the work and the time we put in here at Saturday, Sunday, trying to figure out where these guys are going to go, giving you a snapshot, a TV guide, so to speak, of what's going to happen on draft weekend. So there it is, guys. If you've bought the notebooks in the past, please consider purchasing it again. If you're new to Saturday, Sunday, please consider purchasing it. It's been a long time listener, but you've never purchased it, please consider purchasing. It's $9.99. It's the lifeblood of what we do. It's what keeps us going. Every dollar goes right back into the company, paying for server fees, paying for subscriptions, just to do this for the love of the game, for the love of the draft, and everything that comes with it. So please consider helping us out and purchasing it for $9.99 if you can. If not, wherever you listen to the podcast, rate, review, subscribe, get over to YouTube. You can always watch the podcast on there as well. So please, anything you can do to help us, support us, and is greatly appreciated. So on behalf of my sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us. I look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.